Are you guys able to hear me? Sanjana?
Yes, we can hear
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
Yeah, yeah, Mansi, we can hear
Oh,
you.
okay.
Yes.
So, how's everybody doing? As are you all waiting to go back to college, or everybody loves just being remote? You can type your answers also. So just to get familiar, you all know that if you have not used Google Meet before, on the top right, you have a chat with everyone option. So if you want to, send in any comments through the session, you want to like ask a question, Sanjana, Pratik, and me would be looking at this all the time. So, we can help answer that. Maybe we can just, do a side answer to you. Um, so yeah, remote. Oh, you love remote. Okay. We should do a poll actually. Can we do a quick poll till we have one more person join? Sanjana, is this your meeting? Would you be able to do the poll?
No, no, that's something that Pratik can do.
Pratik,
Wait,
Pratik on the call.
yeah, Pratik should be on the call.
Puneet Arora has raised his hand. Puneet, you have a question? Or you're just trying the...
No, I do have a question,
Yeah,
Mansi. Hi. So, this link that you sent on the WhatsApp group that has been formed,
yes,
I was able to log in through that. But the link that was sent on an email, so about, a couple of weeks back, I'm
yeah.
trying to, log in through my computer. I'm not able to do that because it's, kind of buffering when I'm saying it's asking you to join and I'm not able to join that. So is that link not available right now, or how does that work? Because, obviously it's going to be more convenient to be able to log in from the laptop, and unfortunately it's not letting us through.
Puneet, so both the links should be working ideally. It's the same link only actually in both the places. You would have had a calendar invite, and if you click on that join Google Meet option,
uh, I
it
did that.
uh,
So it's
uh,
saying asking to join and it's buffering in, so I'm not sure if somebody's letting me in or not, but I was able to get an
uh,
instant access on this one on the mobile
it
phone.
might have been the case that probably you joined a bit earlier and I was not in the meeting, so I could not admit you instantly. But probably just try once more. I can admit you from here.
Sure, I
Very
can just do that.
yeah.
Sure. So should
Okay.
I log out from here and then log back in from the computer, or how does that work?
You can log back in twice also. That should not be an
Okay,
issue.
so I just
Just
sent
try
in
if
a
it is
request if you
working.
can. I
Okay,
just sent in a request if you can see.
sure. So it's not come. So you see, you'll also be able to see the screen, and if someone is requesting to come now, yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be a pop up here, and I can admit the person.
For me it just says asking to join. You'll join the call when someone lets you in. That's what it tells me.
Okay, acha. I'm not sure why that's an issue there. Give me
Sanjana,
one
could that, because a lot of people are chatting and think that the email link worked for them, but for some people, it was the same problem. They said. Tamanna also said. What college are you, Puneet? Is it maybe it is
SP
something
Jain.
SP
No, so
Jain?
I shared it via single mail only. It was not
No,
through
I'm just
multiple
wondering
mails.
if their own network, or I don't know. It's quite weird, no? Maybe it's a
No, but
broken link.
And
Hmm.
so, Puneet, I'm sending you the link once again, just via mail. Just try using
Yeah.
that link and you'll
thank you,
log
Sansa.
in.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pratik, the poll question is: let's ask everyone who enjoy if they're enjoying remote or they want to go back to college. Okay. So I think no other question on this. All right. I think it's 4:07. We seem to have 70% of the students here. So I think we should begin on the orientation, which will not be much actually. It's just a quick 10, 15 minute where we want to walk you through and then again take any other questions you have on it. Once again, thank you. This is a 1 month plus 2 week case study. So it's a 6 week uh, pilot that we are running from Uday. As you all know, Uday is the fintech education platform run by Government of Maharashtra. They have under Maha IT, there is a vehicle called Mumbai Fintech Hub, where they're trying to educate students in Maharashtra about fintech and all the different verticals under fintech. We also run Uday knowledge sessions. I believe a lot of you would have at least received emails, if not attended. I'm sure a bunch of you have also attended those Uday knowledge sessions, where every week we bring in an expert. I think based on the connections that we had formed in the fintech industry, with experts, with startup founders. We thought that it was we wanted to look at this as a holistic course with nominated students, as yourself, from our partner university. So we have like 12 university partners, and out of them, I think six are participating in this pilot. We are 82 students in total who are going to be participating in this first pilot. And what we have done is, all the material that we have so far from the knowledge sessions, from our different experts, we have like content that we've collected. We had shared that with you, because we don't want to, the idea here is to make it different from a regular webinar, right? The idea here is, every sector or every topic that we have, like today, sorry, every sector that we have, we want to be able for you all to ask questions to the expert, and based on your understanding already of that sector, right? Based on your pre-reading material, your other interests that you've read. So based on that, and if you can just, Sanjana, go to the next slide where we can show them the quick agenda that we have. This is going to be for 4 weeks. We are going to have a Friday and Saturday lecture. Again, this was decided when we spoke to your professors, who are our, we call them our brand ambassador, as a professor brand ambassador, who help us understand how best the students can be served or taught about fintech. So today we have wealth tech and payment this week. So they said that students would prefer Friday, Saturday, because Monday to Friday does get hectic for them through all the other lectures and activities that you are busy with. So here you see who are your speakers. You're seeing the dates, and the different sectors, the different verticals that we will be covering. Now, this will conclude on 27th Feb, right? Again, you have to, once this concludes, we are going to go into a part 2, which is an offline mode for you, where we're going to give you 2 weeks, and we're going to do a capstone project presentation. Now, I'm just wanting to define and use this time and take your questions again to define what we mean by capstone. It's not a capstone at the level of what you do in your engineering colleges. It's not like a 6-month or a whole subject. It's mostly look at it more as a case study competition, where a lot of you would have been exposed or been participated in those in your colleges. We have told the speaker, the fintechs that are listed here, to come up, give us problem statements, either which they are currently facing, or that they are aware that there are industry solutions, but they would like to hear students come up with solutions. Sometimes see the innovative solutions students can come up with. So based on what our experts give us, we are going to build 7 to 8 case studies, give you case studies, where you have to select one case study and present after 2 weeks, present that to the expert. So if you chose a Sehmati case study, then you will be presenting your solution. You will be given 10 to 15 minutes. You have to put it in a slideshow, and you have to present your solution to the Sehmati expert, which is Mr. B.G. Mahesh, or he would bring somebody along with him from his organization. And there is no pass or fail, but it is important that you do this. We're not going to be like, oh, you did well. Everybody, as long as you present and, get their thoughts, ratify your ideas or your views with them, that's the requirement for the course for you to get certified. There is a purpose here, two purposes for us to give you this direct access. Maybe somebody is very interested in the neo-banking sector, right? So you get close up and personal, to be able to get 10 minutes of your time with that expert, right? This also gives the expert a view into your capability. I'm not saying this is the recruitment channel. We're not going to be like, okay, Mr. Rajdeep Roy is going to recruit you, but in case you at least, he gets a chance to see certain candidates he does really see the promise in, he would be probably wanting to reach out to you for a possible internship or job. We've also told them the same thing, that this is a light touch, but that's why we want you all to come in front of them, and not just for job, just for an industry connect. It also gives you a direct industry connect. Probably once if you are able to share email with them, you can stay in touch, have other questions. It just is better to be, it helps to be part of this network. So that's the case study here. The one thing I want to add on the case study, Actually, you know what? I'll take a break. If anyone has any questions, then I can dive deeper into the case study, um, and tell you exactly the mechanics or how we will operationalize this whole competition, because it's 82 people. So we have a plan in place for that. But before I move into a detail on the case study, any questions from anyone? Again, you can raise your hand, or you can uh, do we have anybody with any questions? Okay.
We have a few, Mansi.
Ma'am,
Uh,
this is Jeet.
Yeah.
yeah.
So how will be do we have to form teams like
Yes.
yeah, so what will be the number of participants in the team?
Sure. So I think if yeah, that's what my next slide is on. But I'll so I think, Sanjana, we can move to the next slide for that. So as you all would have by now been aware and been connected with, these are the colleges that are participating right now in this FITTECH University. And from every college, there would be about 12 to 15 students. We've identified one of you to be an SPOC, which is like a brand ambassador for us. So, we are connected with them and they are connected with you, your group from your college. The way we will be doing it is, the students will, once we give you the case study list, the case studies will be given only on 27th or 28th, after all the subject lectures are over. You have to work with your brand ambassador to tell him that three of us want to form a group, or two of us. So groups of 1 to 3 are what we are asking you to make. And then the brand ambassador will come back to us with that, from my college, these are the 4 groups, these are the people in each of the 4 groups. So groups, you can do it alone if you wish to, but if you want to be in a group of 2 up to 3, you are allowed to do that. So does that answer your question? And
Yes,
I think if it's 27th, then we will like look at you all coming back to us by the 1st of March, or 1st or 2nd of March. We'll give you the dates then, by when we should know your grouping, and then you have 2 weeks to work on it. Post which we will schedule your presentations. So if you aren't already connected to your SPOC, please do reach out, or I'm sure you've already been in a WhatsApp group with him, or connected with him or her. So just make sure you take the name down and are connected with your brand ambassador. And again, yeah, any other question on the capstone? Sanjana, am I missing questions? I'm not able to see anything if there are questions.
No, so I saw a few raised hands, but I'm not seeing any right now.
Okay.
But yeah, guys, please raise your hand in case you have a question, right? We'll just call you out and then you can unmute and just pass on your question to us so we can answer it.
Yeah, so the raise hand is, where the
It's at the bottom right.
Bottom right,
Yeah. After you have your microphone ending button in video call, you have a raise hand option. So just do that whenever you have a question, and we'll just call you out, and then you can unmute and ask it yourself. Or otherwise, you can paste it on the chat as well.
Okay. So I'm going to take that as no question right now. Sorry, I'm just going to switch back 1 minute to this brand ambassador that we have. There are three functions that we will be Sanjana, Pratik, and me will be looking at for the brand, to the brand ambassador for. Would be this: every week we are asking you to send us questions based on your reading of that sector. If you have any pre-questions for the speaker, to send it to us in the form that Sanjana shares. If you have any doubts, right now the form is open for all, so you can put in your questions, bring it to us. We'll collate it and keep it ready. But if you have any questions for that, or like this week, some of you did not send us the question by Wednesday, so we asked the brand ambassador to push you for it. So just be aware that he would reach out to you if we have not received the questions in time. We will not be like pushing you. We will ask him or her to work with you. The reason for these questions, I just want to go into, the format of our lectures is going to be 70 to 90 minutes is how I see it. The presenter will be presenting not for about 30 to 35 minutes about the sector, we'll keep it interactive, but he will mostly talk about, what he wants to tell you, just give you an overview. The next 30 minutes is what we have estimated to be open Q&A. So we do request you all to put in your questions, even if you haven't asked the question before, didn't put it on the form, but based on what he spoke, you have a question, do use that open Q&A. We're going to leave it open. We're going to trust you to keep yourself on mute, but unless you, once you raise your hand, we will ask you to unmute. Once you unmute, you can ask your question, right? And we'll call you out in order, or once we have the hand raises. So we are going to use that 30 minutes for open Q&A, right? And then based on how much time or how many questions come from you all live, we're going to use the remainder of the time to ask the pre-collected questions that we got from all of you. So we do, that's the reason we are asking you for pre-collected questions. There's a good chance if all of you have live questions, a lot of live questions coming in, and we don't have time for the pre-collected questions, we may not address all of them. But we'll make sure that whatever has been asked does get addressed. That whatever has been asked gets addressed. So yeah, that's the purpose. So that's one expectation we have from you every week by Wednesday to send us your questions for a Friday, Saturday session. The next one is the WhatsApp group. So again, I think Prateek has put the link right now here. In case you haven't joined, I don't think we see all students on the WhatsApp group, but do join. We will be giving you all the important updates on this WhatsApp group, just reminders if we want to tell you anything, something's going to be delayed, something's going to be, so just make sure you're on that group so you can get it. It's a 1-month group, you can delete it after 6 weeks, but do join that group and reach out to your brand ambassador if you don't know whether you're not able to connect or there's some issue, and then he can work with us. And then obviously the groups for the case study. So that covers the student ambassador part and the different functions of it. Just some other quick pointers. I think, are there any questions, Sanjana, that we should address? Okay.
I'm not sure if you have any questions.
Yeah, some other key points. Just keep yourself on mute during the session. Do try to use the raise hand. It will really be helpful for us to ask you, ping you, ask you your question. Make sure. But we do want to keep this. Remember, we don't want to keep this like Uday knowledge session where it's just 60 minutes of talking and you leave the session. It is important for us to hear you at this point here, right? And the second is what I just explained about. We'll open the floor for Q&A once session is done. Raise your hand and we'll call out the name. You all need to attend at least 6 out of the 8 sessions and for getting the certification, and we'll float a Google form at the end. So let's all be honest. If you've attended the session, put in your, be honest. Don't just fill in the form if you haven't, but try to attend at least 6 to 8 if this is for your benefit. And then that's how we will be tracking it. Yeah, so those are the things. There's one thing that I missed, which I'll cover right now. This is for the case study. Out of the ones that we will be giving you from the experts, there is one more open option that you all have. If you don't want to pick any of the 6 or 7 case studies we give you, you have an option to come up with a startup idea. Just because, fintechs were a startup community. Now, obviously, we have unicorns and they're way bigger, but it's still a very innovative thinking field, like sector. So if anyone has an idea for a startup and it aligns to any of the key areas like neobanking or wealth management, you are free to choose your own idea and come up with and give a presentation on it. Again, you can do that alone or in a group of up to 3, but do keep that in mind. I think if something is particular interest to you, then you can ask your questions accordingly to that expert. But we wanted to have that open option for you all to take any of the ones that we give you or come up with your own startup idea, where you are like, this is the problem and this is how I would be solving it through my startup. Again, very it has to be in slides. We'll send you across some sample slide of how a problem and a solution presentation has been done in the past. So you have an idea, but this is like you have 10 to 12 minutes with the expert. So that's how it's going to be. Also, we have Karthik here. Hi from Zerodha. So we'll just give it 1 more minute for any questions. Otherwise, we'll begin on our session. Sorry, not a lecture. Any questions? All right. Okay.
Thanks, Mansi. I'll just quickly introduce Karthik. Uh, Hello everyone, good evening. Today we have Mr. Karthik Rangappa from Zerodha who will be taking us through the session on capital markets. Karthik is a vice president at Zerodha managing equity research, education services, and he has a diversified experience of more than 17 years, especially in trading and investing in Indian markets. He is experienced in financial modeling, valuation, equity derivative strategies, and portfolio analytics. Karthik has been leading the investor education initiatives at Zerodha, and he is responsible for creating the best-in-class investor education application called Varsity, which some of you might have used it, right? We welcome you, Karthik, to the very first session of Uday Fintech University. And without further delays, over to you.
Thanks so much, Pratik. Firstly, am I audible? Can people see me and can hear me? Can someone just confirm that for me, please?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, sir.
Karthik, you are loud and clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay, super. So, Pratik, again, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. As usual, it's a pleasure to be associated with the FinTech initiative and do these sessions. It's a pleasure. It's an honor. Thank you so much for having me over and you know basically to conduct the session. So some of you may be familiar with Zerodha, and for those of you who are not familiar, let me just take a couple of minutes to introduce Zerodha and what I do at Zerodha. So Zerodha is a stockbroking firm. We are based out of Bangalore, and we are members across the National Stock Exchange, Bombay Stock Exchange, Micro Commodity Exchange. We also hold a depository license with CDSL, right? And what started off as a 5-member team back in 2010 has grown to a large, company today. We are 1,000 plus people as a team. We have clients across the country. We have close to about 4 million customers. And as of today, we contribute close to about 15% of exchanges turnover on a daily basis. So, which makes us one of the largest, stockbrokers in the country, right? So that's who we are. I particularly take care of the education initiative at Zerodha. We also have an NBFC arm where we lend against securities. So that's also another aspect of work that I take care of at Zerodha, right? So that's a quick introduction about the company and what I do within the company. And without wasting much time, let's move ahead to the agenda set out for the day. Right. So I do understand that there is a bunch of questions from you guys. So we'll take that up in a bit. But what really I wanted to touch upon today is a very interesting topic. It's called the point of view, right? So, what is the point of view in the markets, and why is it so very important? I just wanted to briefly touch upon this because, end of the day, I think this is one of the most important aspects of trading or investing in the capital markets, right? So it doesn't matter what instrument is of interest to you. It could be equity, it could be commodity, it could be equity derivatives, it could be currencies or long-term investing, short-term investing, you name it, right? So it doesn't really matter what you're trying to do, um, but having a point of view is an extremely important aspect, right? So just to take a step back and think about it, if you were to ask yourself, right? Um, what is it that is really important in the stock market? What is it that you want to do in the stock markets? What do you think is a common answer? Can someone just unmute yourself and help me understand that?
On profits.
On profits, right?
To never lose money.
Predicting the nature of a stock.
Right. So I think fine. So I think there is a common agenda irrespective of who you are and what you want to do. The common agenda being we are all there in the market to make money, right? Nobody really wants to lose money. Nobody really wants to play around with money. We are all serious about money, and we've earned this money by working hard. So, and we are in the market because we want to make money, right? So that's a given. Now, now, having said that as a mission statement, right? We all want to make money. Having said that as a mission statement, uh, let's rephrase that question and try and see what is it that is absolutely important that we need to do to make money. So, what is the most important thing to do to gain to understand or to learn in order to make money? Can someone help me with few answers there, please?
Have a good knowledge.
Okay, have a good knowledge. Okay, so does that mean that if I have the best knowledge in the stock about the stock market, can I automatically start making money?
Maybe.
Okay. Any other perspectives?
Risk
So,
appetite. Once you have the appetite to be able to withhold the risks involved, and obviously you have to have a share.
Let's talk about risk appetite. So let's say I have a massive risk appetite. I can take any amount of risk. Does that guarantee that I'll make money?
No, it will not guarantee. However, it does, ensure that you have enough holding capacity to be able to see how the market fluctuates and market behaves, to be able to invest wisely and then, take the decisions accordingly. A person with a lower risk appetite may not be able to, take more time or invest more time because he would want to book in quick profits. So I think that's what I wanted to highlight, maybe.
Sure. So from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, you're trying to equate risk appetite with holding capacity of a person. Now,
Yes, Karthik.
right? So now what if I have a massive risk appetite and I end up holding a stock like DHFL, right? So it would be very difficult to see the, daylight in such a stock, right? So anyway, so any other perspective? So yeah, but I'm not denying risk appetite is an important aspect. It is a
Sir,
very,
emotional
very
intelligence.
emotional intelligence. Fine, it is important. But again, think about it. Ask yourself if you're emotionally intelligent, is that good enough for you to make money in the stock market?
No, no, sir. I am not saying it is good enough, but it is a part of that.
Yeah, I mean, see, all these things everyone's suggesting, they're all a part. And there is nothing that can be left aside and isolated, saying this is not required. They are all required. But I'm looking for one
Timing,
specific. Sorry?
timing, maybe like the timing when you buy or sell a stock, that also matters.
Timing matters, yes, and there's no questions about that. Just to give you an example, we all know that people who bought Infosys at the right time made a lot of money. Or more generically speaking, we all know that Infosys shareholders have made a lot of money. There are several stories, several examples of such successful investors. But you would also want to know that several investors who bought Infosys in the peak of the dot-com bubble, never really saw the kind of money they expected to see. Right, the returns were mediocre, if not negative. Right, so yeah, from that perspective, timing is an extremely crucial point.
So timing along with the good knowledge of the company about the background and all that thing, what are going on the news.
And sir, also not to put your all eggs in one basket, to put in a diversified portfolio.
Right. So that's a very interesting perspective and a perfectly valid one. Uh, you know, ensuring you have a well diversified portfolio is extremely important. But I wouldn't say it's the most important thing because, for instance, although I wouldn't like to quote this as an example, but But look at what happened to investors of Bitcoin, right? So only single asset, and they've all seem to have made a killing out of investing in Bitcoin, right? So, and people have concentrated bets on Bitcoin. So although I've quoted this as an example, that is just to give you a counter view, but I do advocate the fact that you need to have a diversified portfolio. There is no question about that. Right. So anyway, so I think I think you all get a perspective that there are several different uh, you know things that are extremely crucial to make money. But I think the single most important thing, I think one gentleman even says, timing is the one that matters the most, right? And when we talk about timing, what I specifically mean by timing is trying to identify. It eventually boils down to figuring out whether a given stock is going to move up or move down, right? So if you can identify the way in which a stock can move, right? Easier said than done. But if you can identify that and develop a point of view on whether the stock price is going to go up or whether it's going to come down, I think if you can arrive at that, conclusion, then the rest of it is the easy aspect. Once you know which way the stock is going to move, then all you have to do is pick the right trade and bet on that particular stock, right? So in a sense, developing a point of view in on a particular stock is extremely crucial. Yet I think that one thing all of us would agree upon. Now, having said that, how do you actually develop a point of view? Right. So, what do you think there are the different methods to develop a point of view? Any perspectives?
Fundamentals of the company or technical analysis.
Okay, fundamental and technical analysis.
By
Okay.
reading the news, what are the demand and supply, and according to, we can also practice with the small amount by investing a small amount and learn from that thing.
Right. So yeah, there is no denying there. So fundamental and technical analysis, they are two different methods, but both the methods lead you to develop a point of view, right? So apart from that, do you think there are any other methods?
Sir, graph analysis of that particular company.
Okay, graphs, studying the graphs is a part of technical analysis. So, which I think Nitish already covered. So, anything else?
Sir, if we know that a certain market is going to expand in future, then we can like place our money on the essential items that is required for that market to grow. Like automotive industry will it is going to increase. So something like tires are very essential, so we can place our money there.
Right. So that's perfectly valid. And but don't you think that's a part of fundamental analysis? So, I mean, broadly, there are two ways, right? Technical and fundamental. So, technical would cover all the chart and volumes and indicators and whatnot. Fundamentals would cover, company analysis and the industry and sector-wise analysis that you just mentioned. So that's also a part of fundamental analysis. I just saw someone type micro and macro, a study of a particular country or industry. Yes, that's also important. That's also a part of fundamental analysis. So think about fundamental analysis and technical analysis as two broad umbrella, and you have multiple subtopics under these two broad umbrellas. So what I want to ask is, like these two broad umbrellas, do you think there is any other method using which you can develop a point of view?
Sir, demographic analysis of the country in which that company exists.
So that's again going back to macro analysis, which is a part of fundamental analysis. So when I say fundamental analysis, think about all these things, right? So any broader topic, broader area of work which will lead you to develop a point of view. End of the day, what is a point of view? A point of view is you're developing an opinion on whether a given stock is going to go up or come down, right? So what do you think are those broad topics? Yes, somebody said insider trading. Of course, insider trading will give you an idea about whether the stock is going to go up or come down, but that's illegal, right? So, and we don't want to be doing any illegal activities in the stock market. So let's keep that aside. But yeah, that's an example of developing a perspective. So what do you think is another method, a very popular method actually? Okay, so ability to read ongoing trading trends, that's technical analysis again, right?
Quantitative
So,
analysis.
sorry?
Quantitative analysis.
Absolutely. And so quantitative analysis is the other broad Monte Carlo simulations, and quantitative analysis is again a part of quantitative analysis. So end of the day, stock markets is nothing but a series of numbers, an array of numbers, right? So every day there are stock prices reflect in a number, and then these numbers fluctuate on a daily basis. Now there is a field of study which takes in these numbers as an input, and you can subject these numbers as an input and to an algorithm and generate a buy and sell signal out of these algorithms, right? So it could be as simple as this, saying if a stock has moved 5% more than its 10-day average, then it's a buy. Or if a stock has moved 10% below its average, and along with this, the index it belongs to has also moved by a certain ratio, then it's a buy, right? So these are examples of tiny little algorithms. You don't look at the charts, you don't look at the company history. All you do is take numbers as an input, run it through a bunch of sequential logical lines, also called an algo or an algorithm, and then derive an output out of it. And your output is either a buy signal or a sell signal, right? So and if you are able to derive a buy or a sell signal, that means to say that you're essentially getting a point of trade, a point of view on the stock. Now that is also a method using which you can develop a point of view, right? So we've got technical analysis, we've got fundamental analysis, we've got quantitative analysis, right? Now these three are the broad umbrellas under which we can develop a point of view on the stock, right? So any questions on this so far?
So, do indicators fall under the quantitative analysis part?
See, indicator is nothing but a bunch of it's a logic. End of the day, it's a logic. Now, the logic itself can be based on a fundamental analysis or technical analysis or a quantitative analysis. So let me give you an example. Let's say I come out with a fundamental indicator. So it can be as simple as if the stock price is, let's say 10x of its price to earning multiple, then buy. This is a very basic one, but what I want you to appreciate is, what I want you to identify is, I'm using stock price as an input. I'm using a fundamental criteria, which is price to earning, as a evaluating parameter, and that evaluates and gives me a buy or a sell, right? So the core of it, which is the evaluating parameter, is based on fundamentals. So this becomes a fundamental indicator, right? A technical indicator could be if the open, high, low close is equal to the average of previous day's close, right? Then buy the stock. or sell the stock. Now, the evaluating criteria is based on a few technical parameters, so that could be a technical indicator, right? So what I'm trying to tell you is indicator is generic, depends on what the evaluating parameter is, and based on that, it can either be a fundamental indicator, quantitative, or a technical indicator.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Welcome. Yeah, any other questions around whatever we've discussed so far?
Yes, sir. So is there any certain preference with regards to what type of analysis should we use in what situation? Is there any certain preference?
It really depends on your trading outlook and what you intend to do with the market, right? Now, if I'm someone who prefers to invest in a stock and hold on to that stock for the next 10 years, then there is no business for me to look at the quantitative parameters or the technical parameters, right? So what I would be interested in understanding is the business outlook of the company in question. So fundamental analysis is what I would really like to do. Likewise, if I intend to buy this morning and sell it off by evening, then all I need to do is look at the charts, look at the patterns, look at the way the stock is moving, and that can either be a quantitative or a technical analysis derived outlook. So the answer really depends on what you intend to do. Just to put this give clarity, I think a lot of people, especially in the beginning days, in the early days of their trading and investing career, get confused with what exactly is technical analysis and what is fundamental analysis. So let me just, I think some of you also may have that same doubt. So let me just clear that out for you. Technical analysis is basically, so market opens at 9:15 a.m. What time does the market close? Can someone tell me?
3:30.
Right. So
3:30.
that's right. So market opens at 9:15, closes at 3:30. The first price at which the market opens is called the opening price. The price at which the market closes, which is around 3:30. Last 30 minutes average is calculated and the closing price of the day is calculated. So we have the opening price, we have the closing price. In between, the highest price that is traded is called the highest price, and the lowest price for the day is obviously the price at which the lowest price point the stock is available, and that forms the close price. Excuse me. So these 4 points, price points in a day, mark the most important price points of the day. Otherwise, just think about it. From 9:15 to 3:30, there are millions of trades. Each trade happens at different price points. Excuse me. So each trade happens at a certain price point, through the day, and this manifests into multiple price points, in a given on any given day. Now it's impossible to keep track of all these price points. Hence, what we try and do is we try to summarize the day by capturing these 4 critical price points. Now, if I capture these 4 price points, which is the open, high, low, and close, I get a good summary of what has transpired within the day. Technical analysis is nothing but analyzing how these 4 price points are moving on a day-to-day basis. And when you plot this on a chart, you get chart patterns. You get a nice chart with patterns on it, right? Now you identify patterns. The pattern could be based on a single day's trading activity, or it could be based on 2 to 3 days of trading activity. And you identify patterns and you trade based on those patterns. Now the assumption here is if a certain pattern has occurred today, and after the occurrence of this pattern, the stock price has moved up. And if the same pattern is observed few months later or at a later point, then the outcome after that pattern is expected to be the same, which is, the stock price going up. So that really is the essence of technical analysis, wherein you expect the stock price to behave the same way it has behaved in the past. So that is technical analysis. Fundamental analysis is basically a study of the balance sheet, the profit and loss statement, the cash flow statement, study of how the business is doing, and what are the future prospects of the business, what are the geographies the business is operating in, and what are the product lines, and how are the growth parameters looking for revenue and expenses, and all your margins and stuff. So the study of that is fundamental analysis. So both are very different. Technical analysis is mostly used by people who have a shorter term approach to stock markets. That is to identify a trade today and get out of the trade in a span of few hours or few days. Fundamental analysis is adopted by people who have a slightly longer term approach to stock markets, right? So it could be for few years to few decades, right? So there are people who are holding on to stocks for 15, 20 years or so. All these guys prefer doing fundamental analysis. So you need to understand the difference between the two, and use it based on your outlook towards market. Now, having said that, so we've arrived at we've concluded that developing a point of view is the single most important aspect, and that we identified that there are three different ways to develop a point of view. One is fundamental, technical, and last one is quantitative methods, right? So let's say you've identified a stock is going to go up. You've used one of these approaches to arrive at that conclusion. It doesn't matter which one. So your outlook or point of view is the stock is going to go up, right? So that's half the job done. What do you do next? What do you think you should be doing next? Can someone tell me? Once a point of view is developed, what is it that you would want to do next in the stock market? Let's say your point of view is Reliance is going to go up.
No, it would be make the trade.
So you make the trade, right? So
First I analyze that how much I want to invest in that so that I can get much profit.
Right. So the point of view, arriving at the point of view is done. So Reliance is going to go up. Now, obviously, the next step is to take action, right? So now to take action, you need to, what does take action mean? Take action means you're going to be buying the stock so that you profit out of the, of the expected up move in the market, right? So now, obviously, you can't just go and buy the stock from the market because there are several other parameters that are involved. So the question that you need to ask yourself is, yes, you understand that the stock price is going to go up. The next obvious thing is, in how much time will it go up? Or how much time do you expect it to go up, right? Do you expect it to go up over the next 2 years? Or do you expect it to go up over the next 2 months? Or do you expect it to go up over the next 2 hours, right? So that's the question that you need to ask. Now, let's say your outlook is that it will go up over the next 2 years. Then the job is extremely simple. All you have to do is, if you have a lakh worth of money to invest, buy Reliance for a lakh and sit tight and wait for 2 years to pan out and you profit out of the stock price. What if you expect Reliance to go up over next 2 days, right? Now that's when the game changes. Now, when you know that there is a movement happening in the stock, that too over a short time period, then you have a whole lot of decisions to make. Do you buy Reliance in the spot market where you buy stock and take home delivery of the stock, or do you trade Reliance futures? Do you trade Reliance options? Now, options, you have two types of options, right? You have the call option and the put option. Now, within that, if you want to be a buyer of the stock, then do you buy a call option or do you sell a put option, right? So there are so many different things that you can do. Now, these are things that you can do and what you end up doing is really dependent on several other factors, right? How much capital do you have? What is the risk appetite on your capital? How much capital can you allocate towards this particular trade, right? And whatnot. Now, just to let you know, I spoke about options. You may be amazed to know that there are two types of options, call option and put option. And within these two options, you can be a call option buyer or a call option seller. You can be a put option buyer or a put option seller. Now, using these four combinations, you can do 483 varieties of option trades. These are known in the public domain. I don't know how many strategies are unknown and held private, right? So that's so I did, after developing the point of view, figuring out what you can do is another different world altogether, right? So essentially, like I was just mentioning, what you can do depends on several factors: your capital, your risk appetite, time within which you expect this move to happen, and you know, and your analysis of the worst case situation, right? So what if your capital is wiped out? How do you handle that situation? So there are tons of input parameters based on which you can figure out which direction to take. So any questions on that? So essentially, what I intended to do today was to lay down this like a map which will give you a perspective of how to develop a point of view. Why is it so important? Different methods of developing this point of view. And once you develop a point of view, how do you take action on it? And what are all the possibilities that you had to take these actions so that you have a perspective of how to navigate yourself in the stock market. Now, obviously, given the time constraint, I don't think so we can touch upon any of these topics in great detail. But really, what I wanted to do was give you a map of the entire market and help you understand how you can kind of slowly navigate and take a certain direction of your interest, right? So please feel free to ask me questions. I think Prateek has listed down a bunch of questions. We can address that. But before we address that, I think if you guys have any questions on whatever we just discussed, I'll be happy to answer that.
So can you explain more about options, futures?
Yeah, so options and futures are something called as a leveraged instrument. So what do you mean by leveraged instrument is basically you leverage your capital. For example, if you have 1 lakh worth of capital, that's how much let's assume you have in your trading account. Now using uh, futures or options, you can buy or transact in shares much higher than uh, you know much higher than the capital that's available to you. So you can transact for let's say 2.5 lakhs. So and you can take a position in a particular stock. So roughly speaking, this is what futures and options allows you to do. The way in which it allows you to do, the way in which it handles risk, they're all different, right? So if I think Pratik spoke about Zerodha Varsity a while ago. I would suggest you visit Zerodha Varsity and look through those modules. Pratik, can I share my screen? Maybe I'll help people.
Yeah, Karthik, you can definitely share.
Yeah, let me do that. Yeah, is my screen seen?
Yep.
Is the screen seen? Yeah, yeah. So here's what I would suggest you guys to do. Please visit zerodha.com/varsity. So what you see here are modules. Think about each of these modules as a particular book, right? So you asked about options. So there is a module called Options Theory for Professional Trading. Click on this, and you have a bunch of articles. They're sequenced like a chapter, right from the basics all the way to advanced concepts of options. So the good thing is this is a highly interactive community driven portal. So let's say you read the very first chapter on options, right? And you have a question on this, so you can post your question and I'll usually get back to you with a response within 12 hours, right? So you may be, amazed to know that we have close to about 70,000 queries posted on, this particular portal across all these different modules, right? So you want to know more about futures, right? Click on futures and you can start reading this. And there are, queries are asked at end of every chapter, right? So queries itself is a treasure trove of information. So it's all available to you free of cost. You don't have to even log in here. So as long as you have the intent to read and understand stock markets, all the information is presented here for you in a nicely segregated, sequenced manner, right? So I would encourage you to read through this, and I'm sure you'll get answers for most of your questions. Right?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Welcome. Right. So
Any other question, guys? You can just unmute yourself and ask any questions that you have.
is my screen still seen? I just stopped sharing.
It's stopped.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and ask few questions that have been jotted down, while sharing the information about the session.
Sure.
So Karthik, we have seen like a lot of security breaches that are happening over the world. And one question that we have is in terms of what are the security measures that Zerodha uses to ensure data security of its clients? And is there anything new that it's working on to, increase even more?
Sorry, Pratik, I think I lost you halfway.
Yeah. What are the security measures that Zerodha uses to ensure data security of its
Oh,
clients?
right. Got
Or the
it.
question, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we do a ton of things to protect, data and client related information and ensure this security around that. First of all our tech is in-house. We have extremely low dependencies on vendors, right? If you look at broking as an industry, this industry is heavily dependent on vendors to provide solutions and softwares for various aspects of trading, be it front office, be it back office, be it even website design, right? So it's all heavily vendor dependent, but we have an in-house tech team and everything is built in-house. So there is no data flowing out from our servers to a vendor system or whatever of that sort. So apart from that, we have things like 2FA based login, right? So two-factor authentication, that's called. Then we have cryptographic TOTP enabled for all our apps, trading apps. So that's an additional layer of security, and pretty much all the other security features that you would expect out of a trading and an investing app exists on our systems as well. So yeah, so those are some pointers to help you understand where we stand in terms of you know protecting client data.
Yeah, that's really nice, Karthik. Thanks for sharing the information. One more question that we have is in terms of the IPO. So how does how does SEBI decide whether an IPO will be given a go ahead or not, and what factors do they consider while giving that permission?
Okay, so SEBI has laid down an entire white paper on how what parameters a company should qualify before before it qualifies for an IPO. But to put this in a nutshell, the company has to be profitable, right, for at least last 3 years um, before going to IPO. The company should have a certain amount of corporate governance in place in terms of directors and external directors and whatnot. Right, so it has to be profitable. It has to be of a certain size. It has to have a certain degree of corporate governance in place. So these are few parameters based on which SEBI decides whether, and of course, the business model of the company should be easily understandable by the general public, right? So SEBI actually puts that down. So I think for a long time it didn't give. I think one of these e-commerce companies, I forget which one, but SEBI never gave a nod for an IPO because SEBI officials said, we don't understand this model. You'll have to break this down in a more simplistic way. Right. So that's a parameter too. So these are some of the things that SEBI keeps in mind before they give out uh, permission for a company to go IPO. They of course need to be of a certain size in terms of capital structure as well. So yeah.
Thanks, Karthik, for sharing that. The next question is around the emerging technologies that are being leveraged today for trading. So, how safe is voice control investing? Is one of the questions that we have, and to what extent is it being used today in India or globally?
Frankly, I haven't come across any trading app which does this, Prateek, where you can instruct the app using voice. But I do understand that it's in terms of technology, it's not a very path-breaking one. It's easily doable. From whatever little I understand, I'm not a tech person, but I spent time with extremely qualified, competent tech people in the company. I can tell you so much that it's not a very complex thing, nor is it a path-breaking thing. But I haven't seen this in action in the Indian markets, so I wouldn't put too much emphasis on that at this point, at least.
Okay. And I think we'll conclude with the last question, unless other students have any other questions.
Sure.
We have seen a lot of companies coming up with IPOs, and they are getting a lot of listing gains, right? So who determines the listing gains? I mean, like, I think one of the the generalized answer that we have seen is the gray market, right? The number of subscription, the number of applicant apply for the stock IPO. Which other factor does do matter while listing the stock on stock market?
Yeah. So the gray market is basically a rough indicator of what kind of premium the stock is going to list at, right? So, for example, if the issue price of a stock is 500, and the gray market premium is, let's say, 400, then 900 is the likely price at which the stock is going to list at, right? So it's just a rough indicator, and this gray market is not an organized market, right? So it's a bunch of people trying to speculate at what price the stock is going to list and what are the price that they're going to trade at, willing to buy or sell the stock. So these are all off-market, unorganized market transactions. That's why it's called gray. So, but that's a good indicator of the price at which the stock is likely to open when it gets listed, right? So, for example, if 500 is the issue price and the stock actually debuts at 900, 400 is the premium, and that's what the gray market decides. Now, after it lists as 900, it can trade anywhere, right? So let's say it trades at 950 for the day, and a person who's got IPO allotted decides to sell. Then then the gains in this case would be 450 rupees. That is 950 minus 500. So that's your capital gain on the IPO. And whether you sell at 950 or 975 or 900 or 875 is dependent on what price you sell, and the price itself which is available to you is market driven. So to answer that in a nutshell, the demand supply situation of the market decides the fate at which you're going to transact. So it's the market dynamics that decides the gains or losses.
Got it. Got it. Uh, thanks, Karthik, for that. Any other questions that you guys have? You can just, unmute yourself and ask any question.
Ye-
Don't raise your
Yes, sir.
hands.
Shubhit has one. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Sir, my question is, how much important does dashboard plays important role in a trading app or a trading platform to attract investors and customers, future customers?
See, dashboard like in any other app, right? It's just about convenience. So it helps you, for example, pin things that you frequently do in a app. For example, it could be looking at the chart of Nifty or Sensex, right? So dashboard is just serves that purpose. It's not the most defining feature of an app. What determines the success of a trading app is the speed at which you can execute transactions, and speed at which you can visualize the market in terms of charts and quotes. So yeah, so that's what determines the success of a trading app.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
So,
Yeah.
so is it a fair practice for retail investors to openly discuss about pumping certain stock on social media?
I really don't know if it is. See, I can, at least in India, if you are giving out such information in public domain, SEBI has a right to come and ask you if you hold a license to do that, right? So I'm sure you're asking this question keeping the recent GameStop saga in mind. So at least in India, SEBI can come and ask you, why are you doing this, and do you have an investment advisor license, right? So so yeah, but I don't know how it works on Reddit and other platforms. Is it ethical? I don't have an answer for that because in a way it is transparent. People may want to just, it's like posting a status, right? I went and ate at, let's say, Pizza Hut. So it's probably something like that. I really don't know the ethical aspect of this. But yeah, as a trader, would I do it? Maybe not, because if someone just gets influenced with what I'm trying to do, and if that turns out bad, then I would end up feeling terrible, right? So from that perspective, I would personally not do that. but it's a internet culture is completely different. Probably that's the way of the future, and I don't know how it stands from that perspective.
So,
Yeah,
so is insider trading ethical or not?
it's not.
So,
It's
but it
illegal.
happens, no?
It happens, but it's illegal. If, uh, Ideally, it shouldn't happen, right? So, because
Yes.
insider trading means that you have certain information that nobody else has, and it's an unfair advantage to a particular market participant. So, so trading based on that for gains is illegal.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. How is the price of the call and put option decided, and why are the OTM options so low in price and ATM are so high?
Yeah, for this you need to understand options theory in the first place. Option prices are determined by two factors. One is there is a theoretical price to it. The theoretical price is decided based on something called as a Black-Scholes option pricing model, right? So it's a standard calculator. You give it a bunch of inputs. It will tell you what is the ideal price of a call or a put option. Now, based on that price, it gets traded in the market. And let's say the theoretical price of an option is 100, but it's traded at 120. So, so 20 rupees is the premium over the fair price, and that's the price market is willing to transact at, right? So there is a theoretical aspect angle to this. Then there is a market dynamics angle to this. So option prices is a function of both these forces at play.
So, why do you think our companies coming up with IPOs nowadays? And do you think are they trying to cash in on the optimism of the market in general?
Yeah, so this is a good time to list a company, right? We are in a very strong bull market, and if think about it from a promoter's perspective, you list the company, the chances of the stock price going higher because of the bull market is higher. So they would want to list because of that.
So, do you think it will result into a bubble, and someday these IPOs won't be as profitable to the investors in the future to come?
Uh, that depends on the resilience of the business. If it's a good business on fundamentally strong principles and it lists at good valuations, then it can sustain through. But end of the day, market has its own dynamics on each and every stock, right? If the entire market crashes, then this stock is also likely to crash.
Okay, thank you.
Right?
Any other question, guys?
Hello, sir.
Yeah. Hi,
As a
Pratik.
Pratik this side, yes, sir. One question I want to ask. It may sound a little basic, but nowadays investing in stock is most trending thing, and many teenagers are opening their Demat accounts without enough knowledge. So, what piece of advice you would like to give, like to the students like us, who don't have even the enough money to invest and enough knowledge about stocks as well?
Pratik, would you go swimming in deep ocean without knowing how to swim? Would you dare to do that?
No, sir.
Yeah, so you answered it for yourself, right? So it's as good as that. So it's just that there is no water. But the market is full of sharks who will take away that money from you if you don't know what you're trying to do. So opening the account is the most easiest thing. You sit at the comfort of your house, press few buttons, your account is open. But yeah, you need to spend time to understand how to navigate this market, and that takes time. And you need to put in that effort if you want to survive here.
Okay, sir. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
So I think we are done with the questions. So guys, we have floated an attendance link. You can just mark your attendance, and that will be featured as one of the input for the projects. Thanks all. Thanks Karthik for the wonderful session that we had today. And looking forward for the next sessions tomorrow. Yeah.
Thanks, Prateek. Thanks, everybody. It was a pleasure. Hope it was time well spent for you guys. Good luck and have fun.
Thanks, Karthik.
Thank you, Karthik.
Thank you. Thank you.
Guys, please mark your attendance. The link has been posted on the chat.